What's good, y'all? My name is Lucas Lyons, and we got a couple things to talk about. So first off, Racial Puberty 10, we out here. And, it takes a lot to keep a YouTube channel up and running. I'm a learning specialist here in New York City. I'm teaching now. Remote learning is a different type of beast. So I've been a little busy, been a little bit away. And every time I get on here, I feel like I'm promising I'm going to post more, but I will be posting more. And so, we're here to talk about race, the most consequential thing on this planet right now. And I'm glad, I'm excited when I make these videos because it really helps me internalize the things I've been reading, the things I've been seeing, the things I've been hearing, to really put it out there in a way that I think is digestible, in a way that I think is more coherent than me keeping some of these things to myself. Just spreading some of that love, spreading some of that knowledge uh, around. I've been wanting to talk about this topic for a while now. White extremism, white terrorism is what it is. And, I do want to give a shout out to the Black Authority, who, I'm not sure what the Black populace opinion of the Black Authority is, but he makes some really interesting and interesting videos. So he makes some really cogent points in his video. So I really recommend you watch from October 20th. It's 2 hours long, so I would recommend watching like 10 minutes at a time if you can, or listen to it as if it were a podcast. Really, really good stuff here. So shout out to the Black Authority for posting this. Talking about the Wolverine Watchmen in Michigan wanted to kidnap the governor, wanted to start a civil war. Imagine imagine if black people were out here doing this. Come on now. Come on. Didn't they change the gun laws in California because the Black Panthers were just trying to protect black communities? Come on now. And this just speaks to the dichotomy of how the black populace is treated, how the white populace is treated. Because to my knowledge, no one was killed. There were no accidents. There was no sort of, misfiring into a neighbor's home. There was none of that. And I just find that there's solid evidence of, collusion, of starting secession, treason. And, nothing happened in the way of no knees on necks. No one was shot. No one was killed. But, just throwing that out there. But, so the Black Authority, highly recommend you watch that. But, I did a little bit of research into this because, I know white terrorism has been around, is around. And so, we got this Intercept article, this woman, Alice Sperry, writing about this for a few years now, about how white supremacists, other domestic extremist groups, infiltrating law enforcement. Infiltrating law enforcement. Now, it's one thing to just be, but I was going to say it's one thing to just be the KKK and be a white terrorist group, but even the KKK had doctors, had lawyers, had police officers. What am I talking about? So, federal investigation has been very reluctant, like, right here, talking about to publicly address any threats or long-lasting movements in the law enforcement community. But there are deep historical connections to racist ideologies in law enforcement. Khalil Muhammad's book, The Condemnation of Whiteness, talks about how police forces were basically created to lock up black people for just quality of life reasons. And so these are deep historical connections, and one can't expect for them to just be gone over the years. We got this historical interest in infiltrating law enforcement communities and recruiting law enforcement personnel. So it's not just that white supremacists are in these institutions, are police officers, are in law enforcement. But they're trying to actively recruit people who have military service, who have served in arms, who know how to handle a weapon, who know how to handle tactical missions. And so, there's even a term, they call them ghost skins. Ghost skins used among white supremacists as like this. Those who avoid overt displays of their beliefs to blend into society and covertly advance white supremacist causes. Ghost skins. Ghost skins. I guess ghost skins are to law enforcement what some white liberals, what white moderates are to, I guess, politics, right? Ghost skins to blend in. Look at this, blend into society. So this is not, it doesn't have to be overt immediately. It doesn't have to be explicit, Um, they're blending into society to covertly advance white supremacist causes. That's insidious. That is insidious. But we have documents showing that this is what's happening, right? Wasn't aware that, and this is new information to me. In Los Angeles in 1991, apparently, there are neo-Nazi gangs habitually terrorizing Black and Latino residents. Now, when we think about Nazis, we usually think about the Holocaust, think about Hitler, think about 1920, 30, 40 Germany, think about fascists, think about Jewish people. You don't really think about Nazis and terrorizing Blacks and Latino residents. 1991, the year I was born. We got the KKK, rumored KKK, police detective, over charges relating to torturing Black men. I'm sorry if I'm smiling. It's just like, the audacity to just have this information out there. Police detectives torturing Black men, putting them in things called nigger boxes, They try to boost the organization membership by talking about white Christian heterosexual values. This is really wild. It's not unexpected, but I will say that it is wild. Again, trying to radicalize returning veterans, exploit skills, combat knowledge. This is serious. And again, I really highly recommend you watch the Black Authorities video on this. This is no Mickey Mouse gumdrop operation that some of these white terrorists are. And this is why I'm a little nervous about what's going to happen on Election Day, because there are white militias who have been training, who have been waiting for this to happen. There's a good NPR article or podcast talking about, this reform neo-Nazi. I'm not sure how reform you could be. Talking about how, there have been generations of people, of white people, waiting for this race war to happen. I know we all know about that apocalypse race war coming, but people are waiting for this to happen. So of course they're trained. Of course they're getting ready. These are people just waiting. And there are people, according to the Department of Homeland Security report, who the Daryl Johnson, who led the research, talking about there are people in law enforcement agencies who are sympathetic to these groups and sympathetic to these causes, which makes and he's saying the problem is, and this is 2017, he's saying the problem has become a lot more troublesome since then. And I want to contrast that with this, this 1995 report about how, on Fort Bragg in North Carolina, how, there's these neo-Nazis or these skinheads who murdered this Black couple. And in this 1995, the very first line in here says, it's less than 0.2% of 1% of the 15,000 member force. It's 22 soldiers. One is too much. You're supposed to be handling weapons. You're supposed to be serving this country, serving the country's ideals. But you got 22 soldiers, skinheads, murdering Black couples. And just contrast that with this 1995 acting like as if it was no big deal. And now, 2017, things are becoming more troublesome, right? The other part of this article was we talking about, and the study that was conducted by the sociologist at Chapman University, that these far-right terrorist-related activities, about a third of them have military experience. So what's going on in the military to the point where they're coming back, being able to get radicalized, wanting to take place, wanting to be a part of these white radical groups? I wish I could tell you. And is it radical? Is it radical? I don't know. The rest of this article starts to talk about how, the history of slave patrols and law enforcement. And I didn't know that most police departments don't even screen. They don't even screen to see if people are part of these hate groups. I guess, don't ask, don't tell, I suppose. 2016, San Francisco, the pinnacle of liberalism in this country. caught exchanging racist, homophobic text, and several references to white power. All niggers must fucking hang. I mean, bro, look at this. Prepared, ready, ready to go. You know what I mean? We do have some gang banging in the black community, but if we're talking about really being serious about this, I mean, these gangbangers banging at the wrong people. If we really trying to protect our communities, we got to really be safe and think about this. You know what I mean? You got the more recent article by The Intercept, same woman, 3 years later, 2020, talking about how still it's becoming more troublesome. The FBI's conclusion talking about white supremacist infiltration in law enforcement can result in other abuses of authority and passive tolerance of racism. That's that osmosis we talked about earlier, that passive sort of subscribing to white supremacy. That passive tolerance is already here. And we see it all the time in, this want for racial tolerance over racial justice. What is racial justice? Reparations for Black people, allowing Black people to have economic independence in our own communities and not put systems in place to make sure that doesn't happen. Passive tolerance, racial tolerance is saying, things are going to get better once all the older white people die off and racism will be gone. That's why I don't really understand about that FBI conclusion. And the FBI, come on now. The FBI, I'm sure there's some white supremacists in the FBI. You got to read this book, the FBI Files on Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement. Wild stuff. So, yeah, I'm sure there's some white supremacists in the FBI, and the FBI are basically conducting research on themselves, The FBI is continuing to refuse and acknowledge and combat this threat. Like I said, it's the FBI looking into the FBI and other white supremacist groups when there are probably some white supremacists in the FBI. So, of course, they're going to be refusing to acknowledge and combat white supremacist groups, Mike German, this former FBI agent, talking about how reluctant. Feds are reluctant. There's a long-standing failure to respond to affiliation with white supremacists, white militant groups in their ranks. Has a long history of law enforcement being involved in white supremacy. Look, we had officers just like back when it was in vogue and fashion, officers lining up to help other citizens bomb Black neighborhoods, walking by saying, "You better get out of here." You ever heard of sundown towns? Come on now. Of course it's a big deal. Of course there are white supremacists in law enforcement. Come on now. And not only that, but when the Michigan situation happened with the Wolverine Watchmen, how many, and again, watch the Black Authorities video on this. You have the sheriff sort of sticking behind them saying, yeah, they just wanted to arrest her. I didn't see nothing wrong with that, bringing her to justice. What? They were creating bombs, bruh. What? Mike German here again, this former FBI agent talking about how, the extremism and radicalization branch, I believe in the early 2000s was dismantled because I guess they were coming out with too much information. They were asking, they were telling, and, a lot of dirty laundry was being aired out. So they said, let's cut this before some of our own get indicted, get involved. President Obama, people asking for President Obama to reopen Homeland Security, the extremism offices. I'm pretty sure that he did. Not sure if much came out of that, Obama. That number is up to, and look at this. So we have 276 groups in 2015. There were 202 groups in 2014. That's a 37% increase. You trying to tell me that there aren't more? That like those numbers aren't increasing more, especially under Trump? Advocating for this type of violence? Not condemning this type of violence? Come on now. And then they talk about Bundy in this article too. Mike German's talking about Bundy. Look at the difference. It is a crime to point a firearm at a federal officer. Yes? No? I'm pretty sure that's the case. Yeah. Yeah. We believe they were emboldened by their ability to run federal officials off at the point of a gun. Where can you... Pointing the gun at a federal officer is a crime. It's a crime. But we got the Bundy family holding up land, having a standoff with the feds. No one was accidentally shot. No knees on necks. I mean, am I bugging right now? You know? So the passivity that we're seeing with law enforcement and these white terrorism groups is that's, again, what's making me nervous when it comes to this election. And having Trump give up authority. I'm not sure how serious to take it when he's like, he's not committing to a peaceful transfer of power. Might there be some whites out there who try to protect Trump, who go out in the streets, who shed blood? Possibly. But the main thing is just, again, drawing this contrast between how white extremism, white terrorists are treated compared to just the lay black person. I think that's how I use that word, the lay black person, or the common black person. It's tragic. The Guardian also reporting on this. Militias and white supremacy groups have been uncovered in states. Alabama, California, that's a blue state, right? Connecticut, that's a blue state, right? Florida, Chicago, Illinois, Louisiana, Michigan, Nebraska. Look at all these places. Like, these are FBI reports coming out talking about police links to militias. And we just saw how they try to actively recruit police officers, veterans. Come on now, we better get serious. We better get serious about this issue. We better get serious out here, And we see this just in, what was it, Kenosha, Wisconsin? We see this, we got the AP talking about how Kenosha officers, telling people like Kyle Rittenhouse, we appreciate you being here. Thank you. We appreciate you being here. You just murdered someone. What are you talking about? Police, militia, interconnectivity. It's incestuous is what it is. The Department of Homeland Security directly identified white supremacists as the most lethal domestic terrorist threat in the country. As a black man, I know homicide is up there on the list of ways I could possibly go. But I'm also concerned with this white terrorism. That's what we also need to be concerned about. Don't talk about, if you're black, you're more likely to kill black by a black man. I'm worried about this white terrorism. All right? I know my people. I'm worried about this white terrorism that we see going on in the country. We're also talking about popular police reform to address implicit bias have done nothing to confront explicit racism. Now, I work in education, and then we do a lot of this implicit bias. Well, we could be doing more stuff, but we do some of this implicit bias work, and I can see how it could sort of turn key in an education setting. I can understand, I can see the practicality in that. I wish I could see the practicality in police reform, but apparently it's not working. So what will work? What will be the answer? Reparations. Give it up. Allow black people to create our own communities with the resources that were stolen, the ill-gotten gains. That's the answer. So we got the Guardian writing about that as well. I'm going to put a couple more links in the description below, but I just wanted to get on here, get this off my chest, because I've been meaning to do this for a while. I was actually meaning to do this before the Wolverine Watchmen scandal even happened, before the plotting of the secession from the United States even happened. I wanted to do this before that, but life happens. But I'm glad that I finally got this video down. So that's going to be it for me for the time being. I just want to get on here, give some information about, again, how incestuous we have with white militias and anti-government white terrorist groups. racist groups, white supremacist groups, now anti-government groups, and their relationship with federal agencies, the police, the FBI, all that. Check the links in the description below if you need more information. This election might be crazy. Might be some blood. We don't know. Again, highly encourage you. The Black Authorities video, American Extremists Make Their Move. White supremacist groups involved in infiltrating law enforcement. Would you call it infiltration, though? Would you consider that infiltration? I don't know. I don't know if that is technically infiltration. If it's sort of always been there, always been in the water. Yeah, that's it for me though. Racial Puberty 10. Not the shortest video, but I appreciate y'all being here. Catch you next time. Later, y'all.